Hi, folks. Welcome to another edition of News Desk Unplugged, Monaco Grand Prix review. It was a feel-good and a feel-bad story. Let's start with the feel-good story. The feel-good story, of course, our man at the back there leading the pack, Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc just ticked every box on the weekend. He was the fastest guy around Monaco all weekend. He knows the place like the back of his hand. He's walked that circuit since he was a kid. So it was fantastic. He had 3 opportunities starting from pole before. This was the only one he could knock home. Jad, your thoughts on Leclerc winning at home?
Yeah, like you said, I think you summed it up nicely. It's a feel-good story for Leclerc and for Monaco as well, you know. He's been dreaming of this moment. He used to talk about how he used to sit on the balcony and watch the cars racing around, and he dreamt that one day he'll be down there doing the same. So to do that and win it in a Ferrari, that's a special thing for him, especially after, you know, the bad luck which he had, you know, before he was on pole, but he crashed and the car wasn't fixed. He had this drive shaft problem. He couldn't do the race. It was, you know, it always looked like it was never meant to happen, but I think, yeah, finally he did it. It was a great thing. It was emotional for him, you know, with the memories of his father, with Jules Bianchi as well in the back of his head. So yeah, to have kept his cool, you know, I know he wasn't being pushed much, but you know, just Monaco with all it's a tricky circuit. So just to keep things cool, all these emotions in check until he took the checkered flag, it was just impressive. And yeah, everyone was happy for Leclerc. I think everyone was happy for Lando when he won in Miami, and I think people are more happy for Leclerc now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was a very popular victory. Even Carlos Sainz said before the race you'd help him. And yeah, it's one of those victories that sort of becomes inevitable, you know, like Max winning it in Holland and all that. It's just beautiful for Leclerc, you know, it's great for his story. It's fantastic for Ferrari. Let's not forget that. Ferrari, man, they're just getting their act together every time now. And yeah, so that was the feel-good part. Now I'm going to tackle the feel-bad part. Well, let's call it feel-very bad part. The picture you see behind me is the start. That's how they began. And I'll read out how they started because this is how they ended. Leclerc won from Piastri, Sainz, Norris, Russell, Verstappen, Hamilton, Tsunoda, Albon, and Gasly. And that's how they started, and that's how they finished. Okay? Which means there was no overtaking. There was one overtaking move, driver of the day, Valtteri Bottas, I think racing for I don't know what position, 13th or 14th, well out of the points. He made some move on, of course, Logan Sargent. And there were shenanigans before that, though. Let's not forget, it was a race of 2 parts, right? Quite a few guys got eliminated, and one guy did a really stupid thing. So let's tackle the feel-bad part of this Grand Prix, Jay. In terms of no overtakes, procession, what's your take?
I'm gonna start by saying that I love my Formula One history, okay? And no matter how bad racing is in Monaco, I love that place, you know? It is the highlight of the season. Now, yeah, I know that racing isn't exciting. There are no overtakes, but then you have to give it to these guys driving these huge F1 cars, and I'll get back to that later. The huge F1 cars around those tight streets, keeping it together, you know, not crashing, not hitting the walls all the time. So this is impressive for them to do that for 78 laps. This is the concentration they have to maintain is impressive. And we all know, mate, in Monaco, it's about qualifying on Saturday, taking those cars to the limit on Saturday, scraping every barrier, you know, just to get the best lap time possible out of the car. This is what makes Monaco special, in addition to the whole spectacle, you know, because we have other tracks over on the calendar where they focus on the show and what's happening on the side and wow, it's great, and they never talk anything negative. But at the end of the day, the racing is not really good. Miami, for example, you know, we know that. But yeah, why do we have to keep attacking Monaco every year? Because every year we go to Monaco, they talk about the racing and they come up with ideas, change the layout, I don't know, special tires, mandatory pit stops. Simple. Make those cars smaller. This is my point. These cars are huge. Make them smaller, because not only does it affect racing in Monaco, because these cars, where they're so overweight, they're so big, they're not nimble anymore. They're not fun to drive. Even drivers complain about it. I think that's the elephant in the room. But other than that, I love the qualifying there. It's for the second year in a row. Qualifying was great. The racing, yeah, well, we know it, but yeah, I think for me it's acceptable.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, look, for me, it's acceptable because it's Monaco. You know, if there's anything else, then obviously not. But Monaco is special. And as you say, the cars just have not adapted to the track. They just got longer and longer. They're not nimble. I mean, and this brings me back to this point of the near perfection we saw all weekend. Guys skimming how many of those sort of barrier branding logo things were ripped just because there was, I mean, it was beautiful to watch. These guys, look, let's be honest, these cars are the best race cars ever in terms of reliability, bulletproofness, and we'll get to that with that big crash, okay? So these cars are absolutely peak of everything, let's be honest. But as you said, they're too long, and our drivers at the moment are so good. You know, Max is fantastic, right? But everyone along, all the top 10, anyone in that whole line, they didn't make a mistake. You know, there was no mistakes. It was 110% for the 73 laps or whatever it was. That to me, what was enthralling about the race when I was covering it is that who's going to blink first? Who's going to make a mistake? And in the top 10, the point scoring positions, there were no mistakes. And that to me was amazing. And the whole weekend, actually, there were very few until, of course, that first start. Okay, let's just give you the picture. Perez, man, that guy's in big trouble. He qualified, what, P18 or something. It was absolutely awful. And he's really, with contract time coming, man, I'll look at Yuki Tsunoda. But that's a video for another time. Perez too far back. And of course, who's always back? The Haas's, and they were right at the back because they were fiddling with their DRS or something, and they got disqualified from qualifying. So you had these three veterans at the back. So you think, okay, these guys will, obviously they know what they're doing. They've been here so many times. And bam, first corner, what a shunt. Honestly, 10 years ago, there would have been deaths. I don't care what anybody says. There was a massive shunt. I mean, that Red Bull had no wheels, okay? And Sergio climbed out, and Kevin climbed out, and Hulk had nowhere to go, so he climbed out. And that was three of the most experienced drivers making them the dumbest mistake. But that's my opinion, and I'm going to give it to you to actually be sane and be the good cop on this one.
Yeah, well, like you said, there's no defense for Perez's qualifying this time. 18th, that's unacceptable in an RB20, even though the car is so bad around Monaco, but that's no excuse. Nico Hulkenberg, I think he was a bystander. He was innocent because you could see from the onboard that he was pushing, come on, I need to get out of this before they hit me, but he couldn't. He was trying to get out, but he couldn't. It goes down to Magnussen being Magnussen and Sergio Perez, for some reason, being dumb enough to go and close the door. He didn't close the door. He kept on going straight, and the track closed the door automatically with the walls, you know? But when you have Magnussen behind you, you know he's not going to stop. You know he's going to go for it, okay? And then it's lap 1 from 78. What will you gain if you end up at the end of lap 1, P19 or P18? You know, this is where you're going to be. So he goes up there, he looks at the mirror, he sees Magnussen, and he keeps going, and he closes the door. Magnussen's not going to stop. Boom. That's it. Now, millions of dollars worth of carnage, repair work. But at least this time, when the Red Bull was hoisted, you know, they couldn't see the floor because it was busted. The other teams couldn't see anything from the floor. That floor was destroyed. I don't know. I think it's going to cost them a couple of $1 million worth of repair for Red Bull, and that's going to affect their development, you know, with the cost cap and everything. And they need that this year. With the way McLaren and Ferrari are pushing them, Red Bull need every bit of development, and this is going to be a big step back for them. Yeah, basically, you said it with the most proper explanation in your race report. It's a brain fade moment from Perez and Magnussen. But let me note one thing here. I'm really happy that the steward said it was a racing incident. They didn't look at the consequences. It was a racing incident, because that is what it actually was. Magnussen was at fault as well as Checo. Because with the spotlight on Magnussen recently, you know, with his antics and how he's driving and his defense and stuff, I think other drivers will be tempted to push him a bit because they know if something happens, the blame may automatically go to Magnussen. And this situation did not happen at Monaco. The stewards saw through it. It's a racing incident. Not defending Magnussen by any chance here, but yeah, it was good for them that for the stewards that the incident was judged that way.
Look, when I first saw the crash on television, I thought Magnussen. It's 100% he is. But when I saw the onboards and I realized, okay, I've walked that track. I was there recently. Yes, Checo carried on his line straight. But the thing is, the track turns slightly to the left and then goes up the hill like that and does that. You know, it's sort of like does a, look, he was naughty. He could have veered slightly to the left and given Magnussen. He had the inside line up the hill. So where Magnussen had to do something really incredible that Ferrari really had to have some boost. But whatever the case, it was lap 1. And these are veteran guys. So he looks in the mirror. So initially I thought 110% it was Kevin's fault. But I'm actually going to give it, I'm going to say 55% it was Perez's fault. And 45% is Magnussen. Magnussen, because he's always putting his nose where it shouldn't have been. He could have just let the guy go. But it's not an overtaking track. So they all know that they have to make the positions there and then or defend their position. So he saw a gap. He's a racing driver. He went for it. Perez was naughty in that he said, okay, the guy's coming. Do I want an accident? Look, it's split-second stuff, but you can't. That's what these guys are paid to do, is make split-second decisions that don't destroy cars. And then he just, I even think he veers a bit to the right, but I'll have to get on board to see it. So I'm giving it Perez the chunk of the blame. Although it's a racing incident, it could have been avoided both ways. First, the cause, Magnussen putting his nose where it perhaps shouldn't be, but then Perez doing nothing to avoid the collision. And we saw what happened. Thank God for the safety of these cars. Thank God for the safety of these cars.
Yeah, overall, these situations in all-day Formula One would have resulted in tragedy. So yeah, we have to be grateful for this kind of safety we have in today's sport. But then, mate, further down the road, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. Wow, what's going on at Alpine? I'm gonna let you talk about it first.
Well, you know what, hey? When I saw that incident, I thought, what is he thinking? You know, this guy, honestly, I don't rate him. First of all, I don't rate him. You know, that Toto had a choice between Max and him. Just shows you that he was ill-informed or knows nothing about racing drivers. Esteban has had several teammates. None of them did he get on with. He always had altercations with them. He's got this like little malicious streak. He's got like a little bad boy vibe. Got this angelic look, and he's like a lovely guy to speak to, and you can't fault him. But once he puts on that helmet, he becomes this like, yeah, just a nasty piece of work. He's like, yeah, he's like a Kevin Magnussen, I'd say, but with this malicious streak. Whereas Kevin's more like, racing's in my blood and I'll do this. Whereas you just feel that Ocon is a calculated, malicious guy. He has to prove me wrong, and I will tell him. If I had to see him face to face, I'd say, mate, you've got a little malicious streak in you that you need some kind of shrink action happening. You know, that's what I would say to him. So honestly, it was a stupid move. I hope they suspend him, Alpine, and give doing a go. Make him sit out 3 Grand Prix and then fire him, because Esteban do we need him for another more seasons? He's proven nothing. He's proven nothing. He's just a bad apple. So yeah, I would not be unhappy to see the back of Esteban.
End of the day, I don't know what the consequences are going to be. Bruno Faman said that they're going to be consequences for that. I hope he makes the right decision. I said it in my takeaways. That kid needs discipline. You know.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to allude to.
Yeah.
On the takeaways, you mentioned it really well. He has no discipline. He's got so many. I mean, he's almost a decade in the sport. Come on, guys, move on. Get another guy in.
Yeah. He showed that he's fast enough maybe to be in F1, but for all this time, I don't think he has shown that he's worthy of a big team seat, you know. And look now, Mercedes, you said Toto Wolff chose them in the junior categories. He chose them to be their junior driver. And now they have a seat over there. And I don't think Wolff is contemplating having Ocon in that seat. You know, I don't think so. So, yeah, he hasn't proven himself to be good enough for a big seat, for a championship fight maybe or something. He won that odd race in Hungary, but we know that race a bit also. It was a bit weird, you know, how the start of that race was. So, yeah, I think Alpine have to take some serious decisions on this. And I think what's happening with Ocon in Alpine, it's a reflection of how lost that team is at the moment. You know, there is no leadership. There is no direction within the team. When you have these two drivers fighting this way, and this has been the case for a while now. And as a matter of fact, ever since Ocon was there, you know, he had, I know this is his second teammate at Alpine, I think. He got Fernando Alonso, and now he's got Pierre Gasly. And they've been lost in managing the team. I think it's a reflection of the situation at Alpine more so than how Ocon is
look, I'll
behaving.
take that as like you being Mother Teresa again for the Esteban Ocon fan club. But honestly, I take all that on board, but there's just a malicious streak in the kid. Enough of the feel bad story. 3 of them: Perez, Ocon, Magnussen. Hulkenberg, I mean, he was just an innocent. He had the best seats in the house. He knew it was going to happen, and he just had to. I think at the end when he's there, he just had nowhere to go. He just absolutely everything was blocked. So yeah, he was unfortunate bystander in that. So I'm just going to give it to those 3 guys, bad boys, and Perez has to up his game. Magnussen has to find another sport, another discipline. You know, he has to go back to what he wants to do and win races, which he's not doing in Formula One. And Ocon, man, he's so past his sell-by date as far as I'm concerned. But the feel-good story was Leclerc winning. I think this is going to be a big boost, not just for his championship title tilt. It's just a big boost for Formula One in terms of, honestly, no one can say they didn't think Max was going to win every race a couple of months ago. It was just like on the cards. Max is just going to walk away. It's proven not to be. The RB20 is not as dominant as the RB19. I'm going to suggest that the RB20 is better than the RB19, but McLaren, man, they've made a huge step, and Ferrari have made very strong steps. So you've got 2 teams biting in their heels. So it's not a question of RB20 being worse. I think it's the SF24 and the
MCL38.
MCL38. There you go. Those 2 cars have, I think, in terms of the graph of improvements, I think they've gone like, and Red Bull went slightly this. Maybe because Adrian's, you know, thinking of sailing his boat, thinking of Ferrari, thinking of romancing Lewis. I don't know. But it happens that the ball has been dropped, or the updates haven't had the growth that they had because of the situation in Red Bull, which happened 2-3 months ago, but the repercussions maybe are coming now. Having said that, also interesting to note is new cars tended to not start the season well of late, but before pretty bad. And then but they always got better. They always got better and better and better. I'm not seeing it with this car at the moment. But again, like I said, if McLaren and Ferrari have found the path to performance with upgrades like they have now, and they can take another step forward, I think we've got a contest in this championship. Thoughts on that before we close?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very interesting and exciting going forward. On the Red Bull thing, there's one thing, because they started this era of regulations so strong, you know, they've had their growth sprout, you know, early on, and now they're just finding incremental gains with the car, no matter how big an upgrade they bring, because that car was so good. You know, they can have just very small gains here and there. Whereas Ferrari and McLaren, no, they had bad cars. They got on top of those cars and they delivered those great boosts in performance with these current cars which you have today. And basically, their good performance now, it's highlighting more of Red Bull's weaknesses. Maybe if the RB20 of Red Bull this year was racing the cars of last year for Ferrari and McLaren, maybe Max Verstappen would have won in Monaco. We have to go look at the numbers, but you know what I mean? Yeah, the pressure of McLaren and Ferrari is just showing Red Bull's vulnerability right now. Max said that car has a DNA issue in terms of curbs, riding the curbs and bumps. So they need to look into that. I don't know if they can fix it this year. Maybe it has to go till next year. What we are sure of, it's going to be an interesting fight till the end of the season. You and I wrote off the season at the start, you know, when we were talking about it and the new cars and everything. Yeah, I'm happy to say that we might be proven wrong, and we're going to have a nice, maybe, title fight till the end. Leclerc's just 31 points behind Verstappen.
But at the end of the day, Ferrari won. That's very good for Formula One, always. Fred Vasseur, take a bow. The guy is absolutely galvanizing this team. Leclerc, great drive. I want him to keep it up. And I think that's the best news for Formula One. So, folks, if you agree with us, let us know. Let us know your thoughts about the three bad boys, Magnussen, Perez, and Ocon, and also about Charles. If you've watched until now, thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed, give us a subscribe and enjoy the off weekend that's coming up. Thank you.